best friend to 23. She left her body and hovered above me. I saw no shadow, I looked around, searched every building and home that I found. I saw no shadow, but felt the glow. The warmth inside me, it kept me afloat. It felt like heaven had found my bones and gave me comfort when I feel alone. Now you're gone, I'm alone. I guess it's time to get better. Through the pain, I will go alone. If I fall, break my bones, I will scream even louder. 'Cause I'm not dying alone. I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body and hovered above me. My best friend to 23. I heard the heavens crying above me. They gained an angel, I lost a friend. I felt like dying again and again. I went through hell, stared at death, but I keep fighting with each living breath. I saw no way out from where I stood. Felt like the fire had burned me from. Now you're gone, I'm alone. I guess it's time to get better. Through the pain, I will go alone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another glorious episode, another live episode of the Aggressively Average Angler podcast slash live stream. We appreciate you having you here, and we're excited. We are Sans Jeff. We're Sans Jeffrey, even though it looks like he's here, because like visually, if you were watching, you would assume that Jeff was here with a little extra beard growth, but it's not Jeff. It's Debo from Debo's Fishing. And Jeff is actually on. We're gonna call it vacation. He's not gonna be working, so he's on vacation with his fam. And so we brought in the upgraded version of Jeff. We have Debo on. Debo, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, man. I appreciate y'all having me on. Hopefully, I can live up to the hype that is Burley. I'm like I said, I'm the fatter, older version, so we're going with that.
We're gonna go with older, wiser. How about that? We'll just stay with older,
Okay, yeah,
wiser.
I like it.
And then, I mean, I could jab Jeff, and I said it wouldn't take much, but we do love Jeff, even though he's not with us. So that's why we got the upgrade here tonight. Um, we may get graced by Dizzle. We may not. We'll give him like 15-minute grace period. If he doesn't make it, we're just gonna assume that he's hiding in chat, and you guys can all bash him. But if he doesn't make it, we will power through the show. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I just want to say, if you haven't already, go check us out on YouTube. If you're not watching us live on YouTube, we got the Instagram, we got the old TikTok. Go check us out there. And then we want to shout out some of our partners. We've got Monster Bass, who is helping support the show. We've got Buzbe and Mule Fishing, some of our all-time favorites. So please go check them out and check out the links below if you have not already. And I do want to shout out, in partnership with Monster Bass, we are still working on the ultralight rod. We just had a phone call with the designer. I've got a little mathematical work to do before we give like the final details over to the rod manufacturer. We're still working on color, but we're really excited for working through that. And we're really hoping, fingers and toes crossed, that we get that out by like the end of spring. That's kind of like would be really awesome. I would love personally to be wet waiting with that rod. That's like one of my favorite things to do, hands down, all time. And we certainly would love to see you guys using those too. So just a quick update there. So today we're going to be talking probably mostly baitcasters, but reels in general. We're going to talk about how to purchase, what you should be looking for, how to parse through all the details that you're all reading and you're just like getting confused. Like, what is super tune versus regular tune? What is the pro version versus like which speed do I need to have? What's 8.1 to 1 and all that? We're going to go through all that stuff. We're going to get nerdy with it. So if you're in chat, bombard us with questions. I will do my best to keep up, but keep up with the questions, and we're just gonna dig into it. But as always, we will kick it off with and I have to also say, we have our Shopify store open, so the tees are up there. The decals are up there, and you can go buy them wherever you want. They do ship to Canada. We figured it out on the members
Oh,
only live. We figured out that is a huge one. We know we love y'all in Canada. We did figure it out actually on the fly. Someone was like, "Hey, we can't ship to Canada. What's the problem?" We got on during the show and fixed it mid show. So it is there for y'all. You can get an aggressively average angler shirt. You can get the flip around and find out, or the Ned Rig Nerd shirt as of today. And there's another one in the works. I'm just gonna say it's a Lunker Hunt Spider shirt. So get ready. It is hilarious. Debo's already shaking his head. All right, cue the D. Question of the day is uh
yeah. Actually, I forgot I've got to go. So,
this was oh no, my power. um Debo, question for you.
okay.
As a youngin, were you a Legos, a Connects kid, or a Legos kid, or like a neither? Because there's really only like three categories that you can fall into as a babe, as a child. Which one were you?
I was a Lego kid for sure, through and through.
Yes.
Loved Lego.
So I have to ask, were you the type of kid with Legos where you like kept the sets like made, and once you made them once, they stay made forever? Or did you make them once and then throw them into a big bin with all the other sets, mix them up, and then have like the smorgasbord set?
Yeah, they tried to stay together for as long as I could, but they usually ended up in a large bin within a week.
Yeah. We had the large bin, and my youngest brother's job was always to find the knight sword because it was the coolest piece, but it was
Yes,
also
or the helmet.
like yeah, with like
Dude, I
the
love the helmet with the little
yeah, the
feathery
mohawk
thing up.
thing? Oh,
Yeah,
so rad. But they were like the 2 smallest pieces in the whole box, and it was like, "All right, we'll build, you hunt for that needle in this haystack, and the set is not complete until you find that sword." But we probably had $2,000 worth of Legos in a bucket, and that was like our main form of entertainment during the winter time. Like, when you had to be indoors, like, that was it. And we were not Connects people. We had no Connects. I would go over to,
I
like, the
didn't either.
smart
I
kid's
didn't have
house.
any.
The smart kids all had like a whole freaking like gigantic Ferris wheel of Connects, and I'd be like, I don't know how you did that. Would you
I don't
like
know
to
what this
build a
is.
swamp out of Legos?
What
Because
was the
that's what
other
I would
one?
do.
It was like Erector sets. Remember those? Erector?
There was erector sets, but then there was also what were they came a little bit after Connects and Legos, like it was a little bit later. Bionics, was that what it was called? Bionics? And they were like half Lego, half Connects, and they made like robots that moved, and there were launchers, and they made
Hmm.
vehicles.
Sounds
They
fun.
were
No?
they were really cool. But again, if you were not a Connects kid, like you could not like make your own car. It was like way, at least from my puny brain, way too complex. Like no way. But we were Lego people. We were definitely Lego people. And I feel like artistic people, Lego people, smart STEM kids, they were all in the Connects. And I have mad respect for Connects kids. So we have some Lincoln Logs kids in the house. I've already seen that
See,
a
my
couple of
grandparents had
times.
Lincoln Logs, so I was always excited to play with those over there.
I felt like you couldn't get like we couldn't find them in the store. And so you're right, like our grandparents had them for us when we went there, and that was like a
Yeah.
top 5 toy to play with at the grandparents' house. Chaz, you would be a Connects person. Chaz is over here like, doing his wizardry on the computer, and shockingly enough, he was a Connects kid. There you go.
With his pinky out, he talked about how he used Connects.
He's
I
like,
use Connect.
I built my first elevator out of only Connects, and like, in my
I was a
home.
Midwest kid. I built my own grain elevator and
That's how
sail
that's
barn.
how we got corn out of the silo with my Connects. I
Yeah.
like it. I think it's awesome, but it was kind of one or the other. Like you had 2 routes and there was like nothing else. And then the Lincoln Logs was like the backdrop to everything. All right, so let's get into the meat of the show. Um, First question, just like right off the top, like in general, this is like a very broad question. Like, what percentage of the time are you grabbing a baitcaster versus like a spinning setup? Like for you, it's a personal thing, obviously, but just in general for you, like what's your like of all your setups? If you had 10 in the boat, how many would be baitcasters versus how many would be spinning setups?
I'd say it's probably an 80-20 for me.
I think that's probably the same for me. And my spinning setups are really for drop shot, Ned rig, that sort of thing, like finesse. I see you're making a face. All right, we'll just say finesse in
Oh, you
general.
just said drop shot, and I just wanted to barf in my mouth. So,
At least I didn't say for flinging spiders.
oh
Um,
gosh,
so just finesse in general, I think. And then
yeah.
I do really, I used to prefer for like Carolina rig, I used to prefer, and I used to carry like a medium stick. but now I've converted, so now I pretty much always run those on a baitcaster. So I think other than ultralight and like my medium light, even my medium setup like almost never gets used with a spinning setup anymore. Like everything runs through the baitcaster. So I'm probably also 80-20, maybe at best, especially in a kayak where I'm like limited to 6. I probably have 2 spinning setups and then 4 or 5 baitcasters. So maybe even more like 8, like uh 85, 90%.
Yeah, and I'm not against throwing it. Like if I get on a good finesse bite, I mean, I'll stick a spinning rod in my hand all day. But like to me, a baitcaster is more comfortable to fish and is usually how I start fishing. The power stuff, spinnerbait, frog, and then if I'm like, oh, it's not that bite's not really on, I'm gonna try a Ned rig, and if it works, hey, I'm not ashamed to throw a Ned rig all day.
I saw it on video, so I can say that I know that it's true. One of your recent bank fishing videos. I was proud of you. When you did it, I was like, you know what? He got hung up a couple times, busted out the Ned rig, and fish on. And I was proud. I was like, man, well done.
Didn't lose another one on that all day. EWG Ned rigs to the rescue, man.
I actually just posted a short where Jeff was like, I only use EWGs. And I was like, I was actually shocked because I am like 50-50. I kind of went that route, but now I don't. Now I'm more on like the open hook. But bank fishing, you can't really get away with it. You're gonna lose it. Like it's a guarantee. Like you're
Yeah, it's
just
a
it's
lot
gone.
easier than boat.
Yeah, 1,000 times out of 10. All right, so I have there we should set the categories right now. I preset some categories, but I feel like they're a little too general. So
Mm.
my next question was like where like there are sort of like in the marketplace like preset like price ranges where you'll see like a big step up when you sort of break some certain price ranges. The first one to me is like $100. There's like the $80 to $100 range, and that encompasses a lot of brands and a lot of different like the Cast Kings, the Black Maxes or Max X's of the world, like that sort of, range and price range. And then you hit the $100 and all of a sudden you get like there's a whole other world that gets like opened up with aluminum or some type of like metal body. Would you agree that's sort of like the first two or the first price break?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would probably say that the biggest bang for the buck jump is up to that $100 price point. So once, if you fish $30, $50 bait casters and you've had a bad experience, jumping up to that $100 price point, I think is the first biggest jump where you're like, wow, this thing actually feels good. Like you said, you're getting an aluminum frame. Most of them at $100, you've got an upgraded brake system. A lot of them it might just be a simple magnetic one, but it's like they're a good, reliable version. Oftentimes on the less expensive ones, they're kind of shoddy. Maybe the brakes aren't as good. They're questionable. But I would say that's probably the biggest jump for people just getting into bait casters.
And I'd be honestly, I think, maybe after your first 1 or 2 setups, I think if you're spending under $100, I think you might be selling yourself short with some very few exceptions. I do think like if you had like a whole setup of like Abu Garcia Max X at like, I think that's probably you'd be okay. But I do think that like once you've crossed the Rubicon of $100, I feel like it's really hard to go back.
Yeah, I'll use the analogy later, probably once we get into some of the more expensive stuff. But I think it's a very easy analogy once you think about it, compared to something that most of us use every day. So I'll touch on that more because that's kind of the thing I always jump back to. But
So what's the next where do you think like the next line is? Because I put it at like 175 or 150 bucks. Like once you hit
I'd say
like
that's really
150,
close.
175, it's like whoa, hey, like I always think of like the tournament MP. It's like 150 to 175 right around there. And that versus like the $100 reel, like if you stuck with the lose, like if you had the LFS at $100, big upgrade from a lot of their other sub $100 models. And then you get into like the tournament MP and it's like I like this way more. And it's like feature packed usually.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you look at most of the brands, once you start hitting like the 150 to 180, like as a regular like bank angler or hobby fisherman, I don't think there's any reason to spend anything more than that and be like you can fish anything with that type of stuff. You're getting to like the Tatula 100, 150,
Yeah.
200 line that's like 170. You've got Corrados at like what 180. You've got let's see, Lose is a little bit different because it seems like most of theirs like hovers at the $200 price point where you start to find like
The BB, the Super Duty, like all those like sort of
the
the
custom light,
custom.
there's a whole bunch that sit at that like $200 price point. So they're kind of
So
strange, but
true.
they're also really confusing because you've got a lot of reels I feel like in between. Like they've got a ton of different reels, and I like
It's
Lose, but there's a bunch like in between that just don't like make any sense. Like the mock Crush, like the black and orange one. It's like $170 reel with a graphite frame. Like
that
why is that
copper
reel
one.
that price?
It's got wind
Makes no
grips.
sense.
It's got the color. They made a spinning version, and I totally agree. I feel like it was the bait casting setup, maybe. And I remember being like, this doesn't make sense, especially what's the mock smash, like the cheaper version, right? I used that for like a full season on like their combo. So like the rod and the reel, because it
Mhm.
was at the time, it was one of the few, it was when it came out like COVID, right? And there was not a lot available, but you could go to Bass Pro and they would have 100 of those on the racks. And I was like, well, there's gonna be a lot of people buying this, so I'll try it out. So I tried it for like a good 6 months straight and was like, I'll use this as a good comparison point for like a graphite body like frame versus like a like it was the Shimano SLX, right? The kind of entry level what Hagani, however you say it, frame, the metal frame. And was like, I'll just look at it. And I like have almost nightmarish memories of catching really good fish, like kind of when it mattered and feeling that twist and thinking like, oh, the cap's not screwed down all the way, like this is loose, and then being like,
Is
no, the
this side
cap's on
plate gonna
tight.
pop off?
This
Yeah.
whole thing is just literally turning in my hand and being like, this is not
Yep.
for me. This is not for me. I get it, and it's a good price point, and it casts pretty well and everything. I never had any problems with it. But after feeling that a couple of times, I was like, yeah, this is not for me. This is tough to deal with. Totally agree. So then we'll say like 175, 180. Like that's maybe the next line. And this is once we get past 200, we're like outside of my range of experience. Like I especially because most of what we do is like reviews for people. I really
Mhm.
haven't gone much past the $200 mark. So I would rely on you to say like what comes after that, because like the like Curado, I think, comes to mind when I think of all the different versions, right? They're all in like the $200 range. Like I mean, I guess the whole Shimano line, you've got Tranks and all the other ones that are out there, and a lot of Daiwas that are up there too. So what are your thoughts on like, okay, after what's like the next benchmark price where you're like, if I spend this much roughly, I'm thinking like there is something here for me and it's kind of worth it.
I think it can kind of be a crapshoot. I would say it's probably up to like 250 is the next benchmark, I would say. A ton of things under 250, and then over that it's like it's kind of a roll of the dice because then you start getting into, the new Bantams, Metaniums, Zillions,
Yes.
um, the crazy new Lose. I don't even know the names of them, but they're like $500.
Oh my, I
Abus,
saw the one
Xenon.
that the one that just came out. I thought it was the new, is it the new Tournament Pro? Oh crap, what was it? I like literally the new lose I just saw, and I was like kind of shocked when I saw the price tag. The custom light SS $300. I was
It's
like
how much?
300, 299.95.
Is that the shallow
Um
spool one?
I think so. It's the smaller deal. Yeah. Um, the Lose Custom Light, $300, and then they've got a new Elite TI, the SLP series.
Yep.
So it has like the straight wind grip, I think, which is
Hmm.
different for them. That's like the TI grip or whatever. And then it's orange or red and gray instead of the purple. Um, but I was like, I think that was $500. And
Yeah. Yeah,
I
they're
don't,
expensive.
I'll be honest, I don't think of losing like the $500 conversation, but I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not giving them credit where credit's due. I'm not saying they can't make one. It's just that's not how I've thought of them. So it's probably good that they're going that route because people, I mean, with the stees, right? People are proving like I will pay up for, a really high quality. It used to be like it was always what was the Shimano that's like super expensive. It was always like that one and then nothing else that was in like the $500-$600 conversation. And now
The Metanium.
everyone's, yeah, Metanium. And now everyone's coming out with seems like a $500 over Baitcaster.
Yeah, Daiwa's had expensive stuff for some time. Shimano has too. Like a lot of it's been JDM. Like if you look at the like Aldebarans and some of those can kind of get up there. Even some of the old ones now, Antares, that's like a seven hundred
That's the one.
dollar
That's the one that I've
baitcaster.
had in my mind. Yeah, the Antares for sure. And it's probably good that you don't run into those that much when you are like new, because I would then look at my $100 reel and be like, is this even good? When in reality, it's probably capturing 70% of the quality of a $500 reel, or some like large percentage of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. Like that's always the thing that I hear people comparing stuff, and they never compare like I shouldn't say never. Very rarely do you like when somebody jumps in and says this sucks because of A, B, and C. It's like I'm comparing this Corrado to this $70 reel, and it's like, well, that's $100 price difference. Like that's like comparing a $2,000 used car to a brand new, you know, Corvette or whatever. Like it's two
The
completely
law of
different.
diminishing returns is extreme, I think, with baitcasters.
Yeah, like once you start getting into the higher price stuff, you're usually starting to pay for like weight, extra bells and whistles. And
Mhm.
like this is the comparison that I always give is like buying a bait caster, and when people start talking about how much should I spend, what's right or what's wrong, like it completely is a parallel to buying a car, buying a vehicle, right? Like if I needed a vehicle, I need it to get, from A to B. You can get the bare bones and it'll do it, but the people say, well, no, I want four-wheel drive. I want leather seats. I want, a bigger engine because I don't want to be out of horsepower in case I decide to pull a bigger boat. I don't know if that'll all these ifs, things that they start adding on. It's exactly like a bait caster. Like, could you use $100 LFS for most 80% of things out there and be completely fine? Sure. But, if you have the money and you want something that's smoother, something that's smaller, something that's lighter, something that has wind grips, you're going to pay for all that extra stuff. So,
It's so true. You're like Honda Civics, right? People are driving those like the 1999 Honda Civics, like the most purchased car ever. Um, but like there's, and I would be fine in a Honda Civic, right? But like, do I really like my truck? Yeah, 100%. Right?
yeah,
Or yeah, I mean, why not?
it's like an ego thing, I think, for a lot of people too. Like, oh, I would never be caught driving a Civic. I would never be caught. And a lot of guys just like the high end stuff. Like, I only get a fish, 3 days a week. I want to use the best stuff I can afford. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. And that's fine. There's no right way to do it. Other people say if you spend any more than $100, you're an idiot. That's right for
Oh,
you too.
yeah,
It's
that's
whatever
true.
you want to do. So
That's very true, and I guess though the one that I should put the caveat on this, then, and that's a really good one, is like, it's your money. Like, buy whatever you want.
right.
Like, no shame.
Yeah.
If I could afford all $1,000 reels, like, yeah, I would do that. Like, why? Like, if that was like in my budget, like, yeah, why not? It's just not, right? And
Right.
so,
That's what I'll ask people is like if you had five reels laying out and you could choose between a $20, $30, $500, $800, and they're all free, you can just only pick one. Which one are you going to pick? As long as
let's
it
not
feels comfortable and does what you want it to do, 99% of people are going to pick the most expensive one,
let's not be
right?
silly,
So
right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Can I have the higher quality? Yeah, sure. Even if like if especially, but again, in your price range. So there are no wrong answers, I don't think. Especially when it comes to your budget. But most people are on a budget. So that was like my next question was, okay, you've got a, we'll say a higher quality reel, 100, $175, You're in that at the top of that price range. We haven't quite broken into like the $200 price range. You got a quality reel, but then you've got maybe a $300 reel, right? You've got the MGL or what have you, right? A nice, a very high quality, high end reel in the $300 plus range. Do you think the average caster, right, of crankbaits or spinner baits or whatever is going to be able to tell the difference in smoothness between
yes.
those two? You do?
Yes. Yeah, castability is definitely one of the things that goes up too. So
Yep.
like the Zillion, for example, I'm a Zillion fanboy, but I mean you can take a Metanium, a Bantam, any of the real high end stuff, a Steez,
Yeah.
and the castability is noticeably different. Like compared to like $100 bait caster,
Yep.
a lot of them be kind of whiny, may even be grindy depending on the reel, how it's
Sure.
set up. Like the fit and finish, like the tolerances are so much smaller once you get into the more expensive things that like there's just not all the wiggles and clanks and clicks and um yes, you definitely get a better cat. Now I'm not going to say it's going to cast farther, but I'm just saying the castability of like how good it feels and how what would be the word? I don't know. How gooder it casts, I think is the right word.
Well, I think smoothness, right? I think encompasses a lot of that because that's what I like in my brain. Like when I'm casting a higher end reel, I'm like, okay, well, am I getting that like solid smoothness from this reel versus I always go back to the SLX. So I watched your video on the SLX-A, which has like
Mm,
slight redesign, right? I mean, yes, it's got
yep.
a different paint job, but really it's got an extra bearing and it looks like, some more spacers, right? Um, so instead of like remachining the whole reel, they basically created a way to like make it feel tighter, right? The way it's put together. And it's like, okay, if I'm there are some, especially like cheaper reels. Like we had the $50 Cast King, like we bought like basically the cheapest one you could find, and you could feel every single movement that you make on that reel, you can feel it like moving around. Like it's got like a rattle to it, whether it's the actual like handle jiggling, or whether even when you're shaking it left and right, you can hear the spool moving left to right inside of there. It still reels pretty smoothly. I mean, it's on bearings, like it's smooth, but like it's got a clunkiness to it, right? And you can feel it and hear it all the time, like no matter what you're doing. But then you go up to the $100 mark, there's a lot less of that. When you go up to the $200 mark, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this thing's rock solid. It feels like a well-oiled machine. And to your point, it's those tolerances, like how well are all these pieces fitting together?
Hmm.
And you end up paying for that for sure. I think
Yep.
finish too is like big because like even like a higher end reel, like just the actual finish on the reel is like totally different than when you grab that Pro TI. I think is a great example. That Pro TI feels like a Lamborghini. Looks like a Lamborghini, feels like a Lamborghini. What? Someone's here. Dizzle made it
You
in.
guys hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. You're live, my friend.
Can't hear you.
He can't hear us. Perfect. It's like being on a call at work. We're gonna let him work
He
on
knows it
that.
was 7 Central. He's gonna be cursing.
But yeah, I think that
Uh,
like finish is a big one, and you can definitely tell. Like like again, like I think in Pro TI is a good example. Even just looking at it, when you look at like the lineup, you could tell like instantly which one of those is like super expensive.
that's one I've not used. That's the black and purple one, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's one
We
I've not used from them.
I've not gotten to use it, but we messed around with it for quite a bit. At the uh 2 year, I guess it was God, it's been 2 years. At ICAST. We
Mm,
got our hands on like their full lineup. We got them to give us a rundown, which was actually super fun because like you were talking about earlier, they have so many models, and they're like, well, the SS is this one, and the SLP is this one, and the LFS, and they went through like sort of the terminology and like the different price points and all that. And I was way too much to
so much,
memorize.
dude. So much of that is just marketing stuff. Like it's pretty funny, and I don't like dog on brands, but all of them do it. Like all of them put
Every
fancy,
single one.
yeah, put fancy marketing terms, and they're just trying to sell a product like anybody else. But it often makes me chuckle when they'll be like, instead of magnetic brakes, it could be like electro-sensitive control
Dude,
stopping
we should.
manipulation.
I
It's like
want to
those are
do,
just magnetic brakes.
dude.
So
I want to go right to the box. Dizzle, can you hear? Can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Yeah, do I sound okay?
Dude, you sound crystal clear.
Perfect. Perfect.
Welcome to the show. And for everyone who doesn't know Rand Dizzle, I don't think there's a single person, but we've got Randy on here as well, which is the other half of the Debo Live. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure.
he showed up.
Is this?
He showed up on time, like fishing times. So we said 7 Central, and he got here half hour late, just like fishing.
You said 7 Central? Your text to me said 7:30.
No, you should probably check it.
We've got
Oh
receipt.
my.
There are
Hold on.
receipts. There
Let's see.
are
Let's see if I
receipts.
can do it without showing.
We can
Let's see
actually
if I
prove
can.
this.
Let's see if I
feel
can do
like
this without showing his number.
Randy's smart enough, I think, to know that this can be proven in like 30 seconds. That I don't think that he would
Oh,
leave that
Whoa,
to
I did.
whoa,
chance.
whoa, 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 whoa,
I
whoa.
did say 7:30.
7:30.
My
Wait,
bad.
you guys can't see it.
My bad.
You see right?
Yeah, we got
I did say
7:30.
7:30. It
I
was
was ready to just
autocorrect.
walk it off, right?
So you
Walk off
actually,
on the
Randy, you were
Did
early.
I put,
I was
yeah, you were.
early.
He
Did I put the
understood the
right time on
assignment.
my story? I put the right time on my story.
This is the
Huh.
latest early that I've ever seen anybody. Well done.
Listen, I accept responsibility where fault is due. Randy, I just want to say, all right.
You know what?
You are forgiven.
If you didn't have that awesome sweatshirt on, Debo, I'd be pretty mad. But it's kind of redeeming a lot. I will let a lot go for the Rebel Pop R sweater. It's freaking awesome. If no one respects the Rebel Pop R, you can just get out the chat. I'm sorry. I'm willing to draw that line right now. So let's get into the box because I feel like uh if you're gonna buy an expensive item and like as an American in these days and these ages, like you go through the list, like you look at the box or like the description right online, and you're like, okay, like which one has the better thing? So you kind of go and you compare like weight, for example, or number of bearings, or mag adjustment, internal, external, retrieve speeds, which some people are comparing, even though they're not comparable, drag, right? And you go through all these things and you're like, this one has this one has this. Okay, this one's $50 more. Is $50 more worth it for 2 less ounces, one more bearing, and 5 pounds more of drag, right? And you kind of do that calculus until you arrive at, your final destination. So in order to debunk some of the stuff that's out there, the first thing I want to talk about is number of bearings, because I feel like traditionally that's been the deal breaker for like a lot of people. They'll try and a company will say, well, you have 9 bearings, 9 plus 1, right? Or 10 plus 1 or whatever it is. And you're like, well, that's two more than this more expensive reel. What the heck? I'm getting the value for the extra 2 bearings or whatever. So Devo, what can you tell us about like the number of bearings that's written on the box and what does that actually mean?
Well, it completely depends on the uh gosh, what's the word? Quality of the bearings and bearing placement. So a lot of bearings are no load bearings that could certainly be a bushing, which is just a plastic ring. So instead of a metal bearing that spins, it's just a hard piece of plastic that sits there, and whatever is moving inside of the plastic instead of the bearing itself spinning with whatever's moving.
So
And that's a
a bearing
horrible.
would be something that's got, you could see those little balls in there. So that's a bearing. That'd be like, think of a skateboard wheel. This is what's around. This is what's making your skateboard wheel spin forever in all eternity. Um, versus a bushing, which is literally just a piece of plastic, a ring of
Yep,
plastic.
yep. So it depends. There's different ratings for bearings. It depends on what kind, how they're put together. Is it what's the tolerance on it? Is it greased? Is it a hybrid ceramic like you've got like the spool speed that
Yeah, like one of
don't
these
even
bad boys.
need? Yep. And then when it comes to placement, things that are actually holding load, like on your level wind. So there's speaking
Yeah.
of the new SLX, on
Oh,
the edge of your level wind that goes back and forth there. So that piece. And sorry, my fingers are all dyed blue. Um, inside there's a little plastic bushing that's holding this worm gear, but it's no load, right? There's not load on your actual worm gear, maybe from the line pushing on it a little bit, but it's not anything that's like your spool bearing that is holding that's supporting the spool, keeping it straight. So yeah, oftentimes the numbers are inflated, but good bearings can usually be smoother than a bushing. So it's kind of a give and take, but just because it says 12 bearings doesn't mean it's good.
I feel like anytime they list more than 10, I feel like I'm getting played. Anytime I see like a $75 reel that's like 10 plus bearings, I'm like, this is a joke. I can't trust this. Not worth it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to use this as a frame of reference. It's not possible. Now, I stopped looking at bearings once I realized that some of the best reels that I happen to now own are marketing like 8 bearings or 7 bearings or 6 bearings or whatever, like the 6 plus 1.
I think the
And I'm like,
SLX is like what, 3 or 4 plus 1 is all right.
yeah, it's
Four
a
plus one.
total. Yeah, and so I think when you get right down to it, like when you get down to like how it's put together, it's to Debo's point. It's like what is the quality of the bearing, and then what is the bearing actually being asked to do? And this is why we did that casking like spool speed upgrade or whatever. And when you go through and you find what the bearings are actually doing, and then you see where like, well, this obviously should have had a bearing in it. This is the part that spins a whole heck of a lot, and there's only a bushing on it, and this is like maybe one of the most critical spinning things. And you're like, well, that should have a bearing. And then you kind of go through it and you're like, okay, well, that's why this is a $50 reel for sure. But once you take explode one of those things and you're not just looking at a diagram and you got 100 parts, out on your desk and you start putting it back together and you like learn about how these things are made, all of a sudden you start having a little more better quality understanding of like, yeah, maybe 38 plus 1 is not always 38 plus 1 like bearings. It's just not all the same.
Yeah, so
I
kind of
do
like
have to ask, sorry, Debo, real quick, Paul.
go for it.
How scary is that when you just explode a reel like that and take everything apart? And
It's
like,
not
I
scary
don't,
when you're it's not as scary when you're taking it apart as when you're putting it back and you realize that you've done something wrong, and then you go fix everything and you're like, "Wait a minute, there's still 4 screws. What the?" And then you go
yeah,
and you take it all back apart, and then you're like, "Man, I'm spinning it. It's spinning the wrong way. The I put the like, dude, I'm not joking. I'm so glad I did that, but I felt like a 4-year-old for 2 days straight, messing around with it, like tinkering when I could. I learned so much in such a short period of time where I thought I knew about how baitcasters worked and were put together versus after going through that experience, I like the minutia of like how do these pins fit in and why
right.
does this one have a pin versus this one have a spring versus this one's just like floating? And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, like I feel like I learned so much so fast. My main takeaway from that video was like everyone should do that with an old reel once. Just do it one time. You'll learn so much.
I think what my problem is I don't have that soft touch that is needed sometimes. I
'Cause you're gonna
actually
come in with
had
a
a
mallet and
well, I actually had a reel, and I was talking to Debo about it, and he's like, "Yeah, you just take one apart and try to do the same thing that you were talking about." And I get in there and I'm putting it back together. I think I'm like, everything's golden. Cracked it. I tightened the screw way too much,
yeah.
and it literally just broke.
Yeah, old He-Man tightening screws into graphite and just cracking frames in
Oh
half.
god.
No, most.
You know what one of my scariest things is? And this is just as somebody like I like to build things. I'm not a motor person. Like I don't have my brain's not built that way, but like I'm a builder person. I love to like wood construction things.
Right.
Uh, and one of my greatest fears is when I'm putting a screw in and I'm screwing it and I know that I've gone too far when it's just spinning inside of its threads. And I'm like, I want to throw up because I know that screw is not doing what it's supposed to. It could fall at any point, and I can't
Right.
actually get another screw to go in there without drilling into it, new threading, and getting a larger screw. That has me mad stressed because I've done that making things before, like a table where I've been like, I just went too fast, stripped out the threads, and now it's just like a hole where a screw is just sitting. It stresses me out to the absolute like top max. And I've done that with a reel before where I've been like, well, the whole thing is now like suspect.
It's gone.
I had a Lego remover piece, okay, and I actually had a drawer full of Lego remover pieces. You know the lever thing? I had a drawer
Mhm.
full of those for that
Like a little
exact when
plywood
like the
thing.
8 flat pieces and there's like a 4 flat on top of it and you have no way for your fingers to get it. Yeah, I had a remover.
Nice.
Oh yeah, Dizzle, were you with my cue of the D, the intro was were you a Lego kid or a Connects kid?
Honestly, I didn't play with a whole lot of either.
Wh-
Um, Putting Legos together, putting Connects together, my brain doesn't work like that. Like it's like with the fishing reel, I need just a hammer and I need to be able to, pound
The
something
Lincoln
in,
Logs. He's a
Dizzle,
Lincoln Logs
Dizzle,
kid.
More of
no,
a Lincoln Log
Dizzle,
guy, yeah.
no, no, no. Dizzle was for sure the bully that waited for kids to build stuff
Oh,
and then just went through
jeez.
and kicked them over.
Just
Comes up,
sandcastles.
oh, is this your Death Star? Bam!
Oh,
Yeah.
is this your cool pirate ship?
Bro, if you broke a pirate set, I'd legit. I don't care how much bigger than me. We're scrapping. We're going like my favorite sets were the old Colonial War pirate sets. They were like
Nice.
the most ultimate
Little
set.
muskets. They had the little shoulder pad things on them,
Yeah,
and
you had the red coats, you had like the
yeah,
pirates, they had the triangle hats, they had cannons that shot like
yeah.
people's heads. It was
No, they
hands
shot the
down.
regular barrel round.
But you put people's heads in there,
Peace.
dude. It was the absolute best.
Oh my
I
god.
loved everything about those sets. They slapped so hard. They had like jungle scenes, and you would infiltrate the jungle, and they had like the caves, the hidden cave entrances on hinges. Oh my god,
I will say I
so
did
good.
buy 2, like, small, like, dip my toes in the water Lego. I don't even know what they were. I bought them. I brought them home, and I'm just like, "Well, those are sitting over there now," so haven't ever gotten to them.
Just like a bag of like loose Legos,
Yeah.
no instructions. I
I'm
don't
like, "This
know what
this
the.
is what you do, you just pour all the pieces into the box, take them out of each individual bags, and just dump them in the box, right? And then you put it
Oh my
together
god.
or."
Dude, that's hilarious. Well, we went off the rails, but I think that's technically we're on the rails because that was a rail of the show. So I think we're still on it. All right, so we talked bearings. I want to talk about weight because law of diminishing returns on baitcasters, $150 gets you a pretty lightweight reel. Sub 200 with something like the Hakai can get you super light, right? I mean, this thing doesn't weigh anything. But then you can trim even more after that. How important do you think weight is, and is that something that you should pay for, feel like you should pay for? I guess is my question.
I mean, I'm gonna have to say yes. I mean, there is a defiant line for me. Anything over that weight is just like too much. I'll actually notice it, or I have noticed it more recently with my spinning combos, where it's an older because I'm not a big spinning reel type of guy. I'm more of a bait caster, trying to get more into spinning rods or combos. But anyway, like holding those older school, heavier, beefier spinning reels in your hand, not only is like the frame just super beefy, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
it's the whole thing is just heavier overall. And not fishing hardly at all, you're going to start to notice that and you're going to get fatigued. And, when I go out with Debo or, really anytime I go out fishing, it's going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, it's going to be hours that I'm out
Yeah.
there fishing.
Fingers
You're going to
crossed.
notice it.
You're looking at an 8-hour day, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Devo, what are your thoughts?
So I don't look at weight as much as I look at feel as far as comfort, how it feels, and balance. What are you laughing at?
Because you kind of stole my line there. I don't want to buy a fishing reel. I don't want to buy a fishing rod online because I haven't put it in my hand. I need to
Well,
pick that
yes,
sucker up and put it in my hand. That feel needs to be there. And I can't get that feel by just looking at a picture.
true, maybe. If you have feel-o-vision. Ooh, dude, if you could make that
Fila, like the
rich.
old school
Speaking
shoe
of
brand,
marketing
or
lingo,
Feel-o-vision.
when you look at this picture on our website, you can actually feel it.
Feel-o-vision. Subscribe to our OnlyFans. So for me,
Only fins.
for me, so we talk about weight. I just weighed this because I do have my thermal printer here. Take a drink. I do have my thermal printer here and a little weighing scale for when you have to weigh your stuff and do all that. This is the old
sure.
Corrado E. So this is like 2002 or 3 when this came out. I think it was 8.6 or 7 ounces when I just weighed it. So it's heavy for a reel nowadays. You're usually looking at like 7-ish ounces is like a really good
Or
like
less. Way
measuring
less.
point for like for most reels, like it's 7. Then you like as you go up, like you said, it's kind of the law of diminishing returns. Like, yeah, you might get down to, a 5-ounce reel, but is it worth $250 more? But so like for example, going back to this one, like I really don't like the super tiny frames. I love this one. This is a 200 size. It's just a little bit bigger. I prefer this like when I'm casting and retrieving things. If I'm flipping and pitching a lot, then I do like the small frame because I just feel like it's right there. Like you can be really relaxed. Otherwise, like I feel like I do this. I'm gripping really hard
Yeah.
on larger reels because like I'm always ready. Whereas the small ones you can just kind of sit there. But on cast and retrieve, I like this. And like for example, this is like I said, O2, I think. So once you put it together, this is spinning, and it'll probably go like I don't know, 30 seconds or so. But a large reel, as long as it balances on that reel and feels good in your hand, I think it's completely different than weight. So this is from O2. Just stop now, right?
Unreal, dude. That is silly.
So clean it up, put some good quality bearings in it, and Just as good as the
So
new stuff.
it's funny you
Some of
say
them.
that. So I have a bunch of these, right? This is the Hakai. I got a bunch of these. I like this reel a lot. This is a fun one all around for me. I enjoy it. That being said, this is still this is a tournament XP. So it's a weird Bass Pro version of the tournament model. I love this reel, but it is heavier than almost all my other reels except for, maybe it's one of the heaviest I have. This is still one of my favorites. This fits my hand really, really well. I like these grips. I like those fat grips. I don't know why. I like them. And I pick this reel more times than not for just like general work because it
'Cause it's
feels rock
comfortable.
solid and it is heavy, but I kind of like that. And to your point, to me, it's all about balance. So some rods I don't put this on.
Yes.
There's some
Yep.
rods I just don't put it on. It feels awkward, like anything that's like lighter, but a medium heavy or a heavy, I would grab this like 10 times out of 10. It feels great. Um, so I kind of agree with Randy, but I also would say like you can't know what you're gonna like or not like until you fish it. I think you gotta go blind like kind of a lot of times on reels because I've gotten some where I'm like, man, I have a bunch now of the Komodo SS, which is a really expensive reel. Don't love that reel except for like in 2 or 3 scenarios because it is too heavy. It's freaking super heavy. It's way overbuilt. I only like it in 2 or 3 scenarios, but in those 2 or 3 scenarios, hell yes, it's awesome. Like on a
Yeah, it's one
heavy.
of the few. It's one
Go
of the
ahead.
few you can get with aluminum side plates. I think
Yeah.
both of them. So not only the handle side plate, but I believe maybe the other one's not, but I know for sure it's got an aluminum handle side plate, which is hard to find. Like you get into some of the Daiwas, like the 150 and 200 definitely have that, but you get into like the loose stuff, and it used to be you had to get into the Pro TI, which is like 300 and some bucks as far as a low profile just to
Yep.
get that. Now I know they had like the heavy duty or Super Duty, which was like
Super
200
Duty.
something. Yeah, it has an aluminum handle side plate. But yeah, for the most part, like all their reels all the way up, you can't even find that. Where Daiwa, you can get that at 100. Well, they used to be 150, probably 160 bucks. You can get that in a Daiwa. So it's like, what's important for you?
But that weight, I love it on I have a weird heavy stick. It's like their tournament concept rod, but it's like one of my favorites because it's really small profile rod, but it's super heavy. It's a heavy rod, but it casts really light lures, and I love having that Komodo on there. It feels just rock solid. I feel like I can flip really light stuff in there. I can flip any worm, and I just like it in hand because a lot of times with that heavier rod, if I'm setting, like I'm going, it's a home run set. And I love
Yes.
feeling that just like that thing is never going to flex. I couldn't make it flex if I wanted to. Doesn't matter
Yep.
what line is on it, or even if I'm just hook setting into like a ladder. It doesn't matter. Like I'm good. And I really like that, but I don't like that for all my combos. And I never would have bought that. If you put that reel in my hand, I'd be like, not for me, not at that price. Having used it for like 2 years now, I'm like, yeah, I would use it for like these 2 or 3 applications over like a whole bunch of other reels. Same thing with the TWS, the Tatula. Like it's got a weird grip. The front having that flat part in front, like it's kind of a chunky grip for me. Now that
A
I'm
lot
a
of
year
people
and a
don't
half,
like Daiwa for that. Yeah. Like my
now that
hand,
I'm a
it
year and a
fits
half
really
into
well,
it,
but a lot of people do
dude,
not like that
it's like a
because
top
they
three
have a
reel.
very distinctive, like,
I wish I
if you've
had it
never
in here. I
seen,
don't have it in here.
I
It's
got you.
squared in the
Hold
front.
on.
Yeah, it's squared off in the front. It looks like a like kind of a rectangle almost. And it does it is really distinctive. It's unique. It doesn't look like anything else. And it has a weird feel in hand. But it is there
Devo
it
says, "Hey,
is.
let me just go grab
Yeah.
87 of them real quick."
But the difference is pretty stark. Like that's a
It's
huge difference between the front of those two. I'm pointing at the screen like everyone knows that I'm pointing at the screen. But there's a big difference. Debo's right hand, so my left. Yeah. Huge difference. Um, all right. How about internal versus external mag adjustment? Because everyone will say, like, well, the
um
external's better, right? You're paying for it almost every time. Is it better?
so are we talking internal versus external mag versus centrifugal?
Yes.
So I think I'm still in the camp of I think for beginners and people learning to use a baitcaster, magnetic is way better. Now there's definitely hybrids like Daiwas. Like I think they have the best brake system on the market for sure. The MagForce brakes.
Yep.
But as far as like distance, I mean, I would say probably centrifugal brakes are better in that regard because they're not on all the time. Thing with magnetic brakes, if your spool is spinning, it's got some sort of magnetic control on your spool and it's slowing it down. Whereas centrifugal brakes, they're pushing out or pushing, whichever way the brake is set up, it's pushing against that spool only if it's got enough inertia to keep that little brake paddle pushed out on it. At a certain point, those aren't even working anymore. They're not even touching it. And that's where you get that extra distance compared to magnetic.
100%.
Can you guys like get a banner that says "Nerd of the Pod" or something like that, and put it up around Debo's name? And
Why not?
I
Set
know,
up
I mean,
Randy.
But
Almost
I
one
mean,
might
realistically,
set up Randy.
I don't know, man, because you again, it's one of those things where when you get one in hand and all of a sudden and you cast the same lure on it, you will notice a difference. And especially if you're the one dialing it out of the box. Like I feel like you learn more about a reel dialing out of the box than you will until you've been using it for like a season. Like when you get it and the star drag is all the way off, the all the adjustments are basically either 100% or 0, right? And you start being like, okay, well, if it's like it's an SLX, you put 3 brakes on, you leave 3 brakes off, you close it, try it out, then you start messing around with it. Like that 13 fishing concept A2 with the weird little dial that you kind of move on the inside. I learned more about that reel in the first hour I fished it than I did the other year and a half that I fished it after the fact. Like I felt like I had something easy on. I had a lipless, and I was like, well, this will be easy to get dialed. Half ounce lipless. I can cast it a billion miles. Let's see how it does. And all of a sudden, like after like an hour of like, okay, let's do it at a 2, a 1, a 6, an 8, and then like messing with all the in betweens, I felt like I learned all I needed to know about that reel and the settings and how it worked like in the first hour.
it's funny you actually brought up that family of reels. I I went and I'm not proud to say I went and bought a reel. This was years and years and years ago. It was a Concept C,
Yeah.
and I wasn't paying attention to anything. And I was like, "Oh, they got a left-hand retrieve." I fished left-handed retrieve, and I'm like, "Yes, I want that one in this speed. Give it to me." And they're like, "Do, do, 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 what kind of line you want on it?" I tell them I go through the whole thing, and then they're like, "And here's the dollar amount." And I'm like, "Wait, mm, I can't
Ow.
turn my back now and be like, oh, I don't want that reel anymore. You put all this line on there and really talk me into this and that and this and whatever." So I'm like, okay, I just bit the bullet. And the craziest thing about it is this was newer or earlier on in my bait casting fishing career. I want to say I probably wasn't, who knows, but I wasn't familiar with the type of braking that they had.
I
So
was gonna say I don't think you weren't new to baitcasters. You were new to centrifugal brake. No,
sure.
I'm being
Okay.
serious.
No, no.
All the
Yeah.
other ones you had were abus, which are just external magnetic. You used all of
Yep.
those.
So I had no idea, and it was set on 0, the 0 break, and I couldn't fish it for to save my life, and I was like, "I wasted all this
Internally.
damn money,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
now
he
I
didn't know there was something internal.
almost threw it in the
But it
lake," and
happens to a lot of
Debo's
people.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, that let's okay, well, yeah, dude, that is such a common thing. That is
"Mhm,
not abnormal at all. Like, I think that's a like, and then not understanding what you're doing when you are messing. And I would say I would counter if you're a spinning fisherman and you buy an SLX and you pop that thing open, how in the that's like a transformer's brain that you're looking at is it's alien the first time you open it. How in the world are you without watching a video, right? Or having someone explain
Or
it to
reading
you?
the booklet that comes with us, which none of us
Okay, yeah,
do.
page 9, like, how in the
Yeah.
world are you supposed to that is legitimately tricky, like, let's not pretend like that's an easy or, like,
And
intuitive thing to pick out, like, it's not.
even once
Versus
you
with
get
Debo's point, a knob is. A knob is like,
yeah,
"Hey, 2, 10," right? Yeah, what the
even once
fart?
well, even once you get new at it and like you're like, okay, the brakes are in there, then like people are always questioning which way is on, which way is off. I always forget with these. Is it
Yeah.
this
I
way? Is it
will
that
say
way?
for the longest time, I wasn't a Daiwa fan. Slowly turning around, turning the corner, and becoming more of a Daiwa fan. They actually have on and off, don't they?
Markings.
They
Well,
do somewhat.
mine's a knob.
Theirs is just a number knob.
Yeah, mine's a
Really?
knob. The TWS, yeah, just to spin the knob. Jeff hates it because it's raised pretty high, and he has big hands, and so he actually said that he was turning his
Yeah,
as he was casting.
some people do
Yeah,
say
I
that,
have
yeah, so
a
the knob
combo.
is here where you grab it,
Yeah, okay, so no, it wasn't a
and
diamond.
Yeah.
some
I don't
people will
remember what
hit
kind of
this.
reel it was, but it has a yeah, does the little thing flip up or is it flip down? Is it the ones where you push the little tab up are easy enough to know what's on, what's off, but that is confusing. I don't know. Last year, I think I sent Debo a text and I was like, "Hey man, does the little plastic bit stick up or does it stick down to have the brakes actually turned on?"
We had this problem where when they get a little older, they look like they're on, and you push them towards the on or the off, and you have to, like, push them,
Really
and then
get it.
then they click, and you're like, "Oh my god, I thought all these were off or on, and they're not." Like, they look like they were because 'cause they're just kinda loose, and they hang down like they're either on or off, and, like, I honestly had no I was like, you've gotta be kidding me." Like, you really had to, like, get, like, almost a screwdriver to push them in. I
Yeah.
was so surprised. Like, some of them just get like that over time too, and, yeah, you can look like a real idiot because 'cause you're like, "Everything's on, and I'm just, I'm bird's nesting into oblivion, like, every time." Well, it's because they weren't. They were all off.
It's like for me, I have gremlins that live in my truck or my car, and they always loosen the drag on me every single time we go fishing. Or it's Debo, one of the two. I don't know
Oh
for
my
sure.
god, dude, I had a, so I'll tell this one story. Then we need to do, I saw the number of people that are on the show, so we're gonna do a little giveaway here. And I think we're already at like an hour. Um, I had the funniest bird's nest of my life, the worst one I've ever had, and it was I have no clue how it happened. I need to go watch the footage. I had the handle and the reel in my lap, and I had the guides were frozen because it was like 15 mile per hour winds, and it was 8 degrees in the morning when we left. So I had the frozen guide, and I was trying to break the guide, like use my knot, my leader knot to like break the last guide. So I was like whipping it, and all of a sudden I look down and there's a bird's nest like building up inside. And I slapped the reel to try and stop it. And I was
No,
watching it just
no,
go
it's
up
too
and up. And I was like,
late.
no. It was like blooming in my lap. I was like, no. I can't, and it was horrific. It took me like 10 minutes to get to the third layer of blow up. And then this is the craziest part. I was midway through getting it like all undone, and that's when I got a bite because I was dragging a blade bait, and all of a sudden, like my rod end, like no. Then I lose that
It's
fish.
always a sign you were going too fast. You got to
I
slow
know.
down if that happens.
That's what I said on the camera. I was like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna fish it too fast. I need to leave it on the ground for 5 minutes, then I can move."
And
It was
just
an
jiggle it
insane
like
day.
I'm getting out a bird nest.
Yeah. Well, let me just see if this works.
Yeah.
It was horrific. I cannot wait to watch the footage of that. I'm gonna try and I've been running 120 frames on my camera so I can do slow mo. And this is like this will
Oh.
finally it'll finally pay off because I'm gonna have the slow mo of this thing just. It was horrible. All right. So we're gonna do the mid-show segment here. We usually talk about like a crazy comment that we get or something nuts, and we just had Nicholas Hubert hook us up with a $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says F7 Sandman. That's Chas for those of you who don't know. A drink on me, awesome producer. I will tip my cap to producer Chas, who is always working hard in the background. Thank you, brother. Um, and also thank you, Nicholas. Oh, we got the nerd banner up on Debo right now.
That's awesome.
Wait,
He
what?
can't see it. He doesn't know what it says. I can't see it. I don't know what it says. I'm gonna trust that the banner is legit and
I
it's up there.
I can see it because my TV is behind my computer right
Oh,
now that I'm
what does it
looking at.
say?
It says nerd of the podcast.
It's
And it's like a
perfect.
little banner
Nerd of
across
the
the bottom
day.
of it.
I think we wear that one proudly. I think that's like a badge of honor, 100%.
It really
Um,
is.
so I'll go through this question, and while we do, I'm gonna say everyone that's in the chat, everyone that's here right now is gonna be eligible for a giveaway. I'm gonna build you a box of lures and I'm gonna send it to you. So it's gonna be, I promise you it'll be legit. There will be at least
Don't strip
$100
any
worth of lures in
screws.
there. Wait, what was that?
You said you were going to build a box. I said don't strip any screws. You talked about that earlier.
I will not do that. I will leave all the screws in there. No, I'm gonna build you a box of lures, and I will send it to you. So, Chaz, at the end of this question, we're gonna roll the giveaway. So if you want to be entered, just start chatting in the chat. Type anything in. You can already see people starting to type chat. So let's do that. This is because we went over 125 viewers. So thanks guys for telling your friends to get on here. Thanks Debo for telling your folks to jump on over. We appreciate it. And while we're doing that, so I made a video. I have the SLXA as well, Devo, and I made a video of me spooling it up because I just felt like that was, something I was doing. I made a video on it. I tend to use I just go I wanted to do my version of it, which is just go straight braid onto the spool, and then I use the electrical tape. Which I think is a nice little cheat code for those who like to go only braid. So I make the video. I got so many people being like, "You are an absolute moron. What is wrong with you? Just use mono." Or they were like, "Just use the holes that are in the spool." Or they were
That does not
everyone
work with
had
braid.
I
You
was
want to know
like,
what happens when you get to the end of a spool on a hard cast with braid? That baby is cutting.
"See
Because
ya."
generally those holes are sharp.
100%. I have just cinching down the knot on those holes with braid. I have snapped off 50-pound braid like it's nothing. Just cinching down my arbor knot. So, man, I got ripped up though. I got shredded. So my question for you is, while we're waiting for everyone to do their chatting, is how do you typically spool? I think you're a mono backer guy, if I got
Always.
my memory. So why do you use the mono backer? We'll lay that one up there. And then what knot do you use to attach your braid? That's my next question.
Yeah, I am always a mono backing cheap. It's like the Omniflex was one thing. I had like 1,000 yard roll of like big cat or something like stupid that I found like I don't even remember what it was. It was like 15 pound or 12 pound. Like I don't even know the brand. I couldn't even tell you the brand, but it was like 1,000, 1,200 that I had like forever. But now I just like I got a bunch of the Omniflex stuff that was, at Walmart. And some
Yeah.
people say that's good line, they love it. That's fine. I've not had good luck with it. I would never use it for main line, but as backing, what knot do I use on the reel or for
So
my
yeah,
connection?
when you use well, first of all, how much mono do you typically put on? Like, let's say at 150 size, ish reel, whatever. Would you put like half of the spool as mono, or would you put like 10 yards on as mono?
It depends. So like a pitching reel, I would say I probably put 70 yards on it. Like if I'm just going to use it as like my pitching and flipping, like just
Short
to be
work.
sure that like just to be sure that on a decently long cat, like a decent cast, not super long, but like just a decent one, I'm not ever going to get to that knot. And really, I don't even want my thumb to be touching that knot. I want it like just barely under the line because if you're getting to the point where your thumb starts hitting that knot, it's not comfortable.
Yes. So
But
what
like
knot are you using to attach the mono to the braid?
um I would use a uni to uni, the double uni knot, uni to uni. Just a
Good
quick, it's
answer.
the quickest one. Yeah, I don't think you need the strength of all the other ones. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I used to use the arbor knot tying the line to the reel,
Uh-huh.
but I've gone back to the improved clinch. That one's never ever failed me, and I actually have had an arbor knot slip before.
Are you
So
serious?
yeah, and it's probably my fault. I probably cut it too close,
Uh,
but I have never ever 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 had an improved clinch fail on
we
the back if it gets to
fi
it. You shouldn't be
finally
getting
had
to it,
someone
but
admit how good the improved clinch knot is for something that's almost not important for fishing.
on a reel, yes,
I know.
on a
I'm
reel.
just
Now on a lure, I think only idiots use that knot.
there it is.
Idiot.
So let me get this right. You're saying that you use how much as a backing on your
Only
reel?
for short stuff.
Only for like a pitching thing. Only if it's like I'm using like like a dedicated pitching setup. I'd put like 60, 70 yards on. So it's only got like maybe 40 yards of
But so like on any other one, what would you use for backing? So like a
like
frog
for
rod, what's your backing?
see for a frog rod, I only do like a couple turns, like hardly
Okay.
anything, just enough mono to barely put on like a regular casting setup. Like if I'm going to be casting a spinner bait or a lipless or something where I'm, going to be getting long casts, I'll maybe only do like 10, 20 yards. I just don't want a chance. You kind of have to know your reel and like how long you normally cast because, you can put easily if it's like 100, 150 size that has like 120 yards of like 12-pound mono. I mean, you can easily put 40, 50 yards on, and for the most part, you're not even going to get down to that, even on a long cast.
And
So it just kind of depends,
you
but
don't want to underload it either. So you don't want to put on
yes.
like 20 yards of mono and then 75 yards of braid, and
So I
then the
guess
And
spool is
then,
only half full. Like you
and
don't want
that
to
yeah,
run
and
into that.
that's just it's just me because I don't know really like I know the purpose of the backing is to make sure that the braid doesn't slip on the spool itself. There was a day that Debo's reel did that, and
Oh, it's the freaking
I came through like a hero and wearing a cape and gave him a different reel to use. But anyway, move on from that.
Well, a good
Go ahead. What?
I was gonna say, a good analogy is like if you get a line of fluorocarbon that's 200 yards, if you
Yeah.
have like a regular reel, right? Just a regular, like let's say you can do 120 yards of 12 pound.
yeah.
You can fill up one and then you don't have enough to fill up another one oftentimes, right? If you have 200
Yeah.
yards. If you use like 40 yards, 50 yards of mono on there, you can fill 2, 3 reels with the fluorocarbon. So it's kind of a money saver too, depending on
100%.
what you're using it for.
Even if you're not, it's a money saver. I think it's a money saving situation no matter what. You can make a 150-yard spool or a 300-yard spool go 3 times as far if you use a
Yep.
mono backer. That's not a I think that's
At
the
least double. For sure, at
yeah.
least double.
But
For
that's just
me,
with braid, though, right? You wouldn't.
I would you could well, I don't
I'm
see why
talking
you
fluorocarbon.
yeah.
So what would you? So you're saying that you put a backer on for anything other than I would only put a backer on if I'm putting braid on a line or on a reel.
No. So if I get a new thing of Invisex, which is like what, 200 yards? I don't even have
I need
one
to
by
lay
me.
down or something.
Let's say
My mind is
200
blown right
yards. So then I would put what?
I said my mind is blown right now. I need to like lay down or something.
But
So okay,
this is what
hold
this
on.
comment
Go ahead
killed
and
me
talk,
because
Paul. Let me grab this. Go ahead.
this is what this is what got me about the comment because some people just like to use the full braid because that's all they have. You have a 1,000-yard spool of 20 pound and that's all you ever use. So I wanted to like show people like, hey, here's a trick if this is how you do it.
Right.
A lot of guys will use the mono and whatever increment they want for the way they fish. And that makes sense because you're saving a ton of money. The cost of cheap mono, you can go to get field and stream mono for
Nothing.
$10, right?
Yeah.
For like 500 yards. And that would back like 6 spools. And then you could just add you could use half the amount of braid and still fish the same way. Um, so I get that. So I'm gonna make that video for those people, but they were, dude, I was getting shredded. They were like, "You're an idiot. You're doing this and that. Why don't you use the hole?" I'm like, "Well, the hole's gonna snap that line eventually in the back
Yeah.
for sure, or there's at least a risk. So like, why do it if you
Right.
could just use the tape?" And then I'm like, I get it. Like, mono is like the most efficient way. I personally don't love the idea of the mono in a lot of situations because I fish the river a lot, and if I have a setup where like half the reel is mono and the rest of it's braid, sometimes you get snagged in the river in a kayak and you get dragged out, and all of a sudden you got 100 yards, you just have to cut. I mean, I don't like it, but like it happens and you have to cut. And all of a sudden, maybe that's one of my 2 or 3 setups. And now I'm hitting that knot every single time because I've lost half my braid. So I tend not to do that, and I also am blessed, and I just happen to have a crap load of braid that I don't have to pay for. So I have a bunch of 1,600-yard spools laying around, so it's not as big of a deal for me. So like I'm fortunate, but in that case, I mean that's a scenario that I found myself in a bunch of times.
Yeah. For the longest time, I didn't even know what the purpose of a backer was. I would just take my reel in to the local bait store that I used to go to all the time, and they'd throw some on there, and they're like, "You want
Yeah.
backer on this?" And I was like,
Well, yeah,
"Yeah,
obviously,
totally, I'd
big
need
guy.
that.
Thanks, chief.
Why wouldn't I want that on there?"
All right, Debo, what do you got?
Okay. So it used to be, I don't know what the prices are now. I haven't been over there forever, but so you could get a 500-yard thing of Omniflex was like $5, right? So $5 for this. This was the old Seagar Red Label that you used to be able to get for $10. So $15, let's say you get this, it's 200 yards of 15 pound. So if you were to spool up straight with this, you're probably going to be, I don't know, maybe just over 100 yards, I would say. It's going to be really close, right? So you could do one, maybe two, depending on the size of the reel. If you have a 150 size reel, it's going to be even more than that. So you can only get one out of this, right? Let's say
With
150 size reel.
and you just wasted 25% of the spool.
Yeah, right. You wasted 25 to 40% of the spool. So if I use this and put on, 40, 50 yards and then top it with this over the top of it, I can spool up 2 or 3 reels with this one thing of line versus just doing one if I put it straight on. And I just froze there. Look at that.
Oh,
How
I
about
got
that
you.
for the
Oh, you are
oh,
froze. But we can hear
yeah,
you.
Yeah, I'll disconnect and come back in.
You can
Cool.
get.
It does it. It's the
I just ran
camera.
out to the Walmart website real quick. Get
Yeah.
150 yards of OmniFlex,
Uh-huh.
even 50-pound test for $2.42.
Shut up. Dude,
150 yards.
that's good. Dude, that's legit. And I mean that would
Yeah,
be Debo's back. That would be
Back to
like again, that is that's a money saver. And that
yeah.
makes sense. I do and so I told everyone in the comments, I was like, you're 100% right. Mono back is a great way. I will make that video for you next just to like level set that and there's other ways to do this too. Like
But
there
but
are
like on the frog rod, like that's a great point because on a frog rod, I literally only put enough to tie my knot and like twice or like two turn, and that is it. It's not a money saving thing. It is
Mhm.
because I have spooled like the old Revo X and my LFS. I've spooled both of those with 65-pound line, casting a heavier frog.
But and you're going to get through. You're gonna cast far. Like that's your objective
That's
with
what I
the
mean.
frog.
I've spooled them out. But I mean,
Yeah.
like when I cast with a frog, I've got
Bye.
all the way down to the spool on a
The
small
back end.
baitcaster like that.
Yeah.
Down to the
And
back end.
Down to the back end.
and so yeah, I mean, to me, all like again, I thought it was funny that a lot of people were like, I got kind of shredded, and I was like, I mean, I'll maybe not. I don't know. I was like, but I mean, they're not wrong. Those people are right. There's another way to do it. But I was like, there's actually like 3 or 4 ways that you could do this. There's other knots
People
you can
love to be
use.
people love to be internet experts at fishing. Like
Yeah,
it
well, I mean, you
is
put something on the internet, like prepare to get shredded.
insane.
Like you're,
Oh yeah,
you can be like,
it's
"Hi,
crazy.
I like people. You guys
Hi,
are
my
all
name's
really
Devin.
cool." They'd be
No,
like,
it's
"Shut up,
not,
nerd.
idiot.
What's wrong with
Yeah, it's
you?
not your
Get out
name,
of here.
dummy.
Go home."
Wait, there's mean people on the internet?
But yeah, shockingly enough, I surprisingly. All right, so we hit that one. Let's do. Can we do the giveaway, Charles? Can we roll the giveaway? Tell us who the winner is. Ripped Lip. We got Ripped Lip. Ripped Lip.
Rip
You should
torn.
see Mr. Torn. If you don't know Rip Torn, you've not seen Men in Black, and you don't know what you're talking about. Let's go ahead. Ripped Lip. Go ahead and chat inside the chat. Just say, "Hey, cool. I won. Look at me. I'm the best. Everyone else here's a loser." Whatever you want to say. Just say something in the chat so we know you're here, and then follow the instructions on the screen. Okay, that's gonna get you taken care of. And Bass Daddy 4.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, "Cheers. This is for Chaz's second appearance tonight." You didn't realize he says you didn't realize all the work Debo and Dizzle make for you. Yeah, man, you have no idea. And we put it on him. We make Chaz earn his keep of $0.00 a night. So that's how it is for producer the Wizard of Chaz. All right. So we don't have a lot of time left. Okay, good. There he is. Ripped Lip. You got it, buddy. So follow the instructions on the screen. If you got questions, let us know. All right, so I'm gonna blast through because we're over an hour. I'm gonna blast through the last couple of questions, and then I will try and also blast through the slow rolling thunder, which I still want to get to. I just love the slow rolling thunder; it's so great. Um,
That was me
old,
blasting.
I, old versus new, or old slash used versus new. What are your opinions on buying a used baitcaster? I feel like this almost never comes up in discussion. Everyone is buying new every single time. I could count on 2 fingers the number of times someone's been like, "Oh, well, I just bought a used one." And this to me is like drills. You can go buy a brand new Milwaukee for like $500. Good for you. You're rich. You could go buy an old Milwaukee for like $100 that has 10 hours on it or less, and it's going to last you the rest of your life. Like I feel like this is the perfect scenario. I bought a new DeWalt and I got made fun of by my contractor cousin, and he was like, "You're an idiot. There's something wrong with you. Just go buy used from now on. Don't be stupid." Chainsaw, same thing. I will never buy a new chainsaw in my life. Any chainsaw you go to buy on
100%.
Craigslist has 14 minutes of time on it, like almost guaranteed. What do you think about baitcasters being in the same conversation?
So does it count as used if I just take them from Debo?
I think so. The price is
Okay.
right.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. You get them real
Um,
cheap when you just steal them from me.
honestly, I have no problem almost with buying almost anything used. There's a few things I would never buy used, like a toothbrush. Obviously, you don't want to buy those used. But basically anything else, I'm perfectly fine with. And it helps even more. I see somebody in chat just brought up American Legacy. Um, Devo's spoken highly from them, and he showed me a reel that he's got from them, and it literally looks brand new out of the box. And for me personally, people are going to hate me for this. I don't necessarily take good care of things. This
Sure.
goes back to the whole screw topic. I'm not gentle with my belongings. So, I toss them around and things like that, and they get scuffs and they get scratches and all of that. So that part of it doesn't ever bother me either. So
I'm really happy with all the people who are like American Legacy, bought my used LFS for $50, got an SLX MGL 70 used, no marks on it. Black Dog makes a good comment, a good point though. You're not always saving like half. Sometimes you're only saving like 10, 30, $40, like 10, 15%. So that's a really good point. Sometimes you won't save as much. But if you're thrifty, I feel like you could get 25, 30% off pretty easily. I don't think that that's a stretch. I think $200 reel, yeah, someone's probably going to want 150. But I still think that that's a deal. So I don't, you might have to do some shopping, but I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you
that's
think, Debo?
no, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like for me, it comes to two things: is condition and finding those diamonds in the rough. So like
Mhm.
I was going to bring up American Legacy. I've bought from them, but everything's been in great or excellent condition. And I wait for when they have the extra sale on used stuff because they'll do sales of like 15% off and then like an extra 15 on top of that if you like spend $100. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm feeling, of course I'm buying
I mean,
used.
you're
I'm going to
giving
buy a
it
couple of
away.
them. Yeah,
It's like you're
yeah.
losing money.
So do that, and then the other thing is like watch out. So I was looking forever for one of the old Corrado E's, the mean greens.
Yep.
Had one, sold it for like $45. Didn't know what I had. Long story. But anyway, I was looking on eBay. eBay, they're selling for like $300. So I'm looking at, I'm like, God, like I don't want to spend that much, but I really
Yow.
want one again. So I started looking on Facebook Marketplace, and a lady's husband passed away. We were talking back and forth on because she had a whole bunch of reels. She's like, I don't really know. She's like, I'd give you this one for like $50. I'm like, look, I'm like, that thing is in great condition. I'm like, you've got a couple of them. How about I give you this because they're probably worth a little bit more than that. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, really? But I also had a guy with the Aldebaran that was, I mean, that's like a $300 Shimano. Sold
Yeah.
it for like $150. Like, less than half. He's
Yep.
just like, no, I hated it. He's like, no, I know it's expensive, but I just want to get rid of it. And I'm like, he wanted something in a hurry. That's like a big thing for people is they want to sell stuff in a hurry, so they'll just get money for it. So
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we're saying yes, the used marketplace, it's a pain in the rear. It can be.
yeah,
Time,
yes.
dude, I can't tell you. There are some people I'm generally a nice guy. I have gone to the point where like I was selling a PlayStation at one point and dude was like all pumped about it. And he was like, yeah, we're gonna meet here and I'll buy it. And I was like, I just want to make sure you saw the price. And we're talking cash. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. Good to go. I was like, rad. It's been like 2 days. It's already sold. I drive 30, 40 minutes out to meet this guy. I'm sitting in the middle of a parking lot counting seagulls. Never shows up. I sat there for like a half hour texting. He's like, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, whatever. He's getting off work. He's lazy. I don't care. Whatever. I'll see you in a half hour. I'll just listen to my podcast. I'll see you in, no, never shows up. That guy, firing squad. I'm sorry, but like that makes me rage. Like I get so, I mean, if he just was like not coming, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, you don't want it. That's fine. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in the parking lot waiting, and he's telling me he's going to be there and he has not. He has no intention of showing up. So like, yeah, you got to deal with like people on the internet. Not a great situation. Like that I totally understand like not wanting to deal with that. But
That's why I
hey,
like American Legacy or places like that will sell you and
exactly,
grade it for you of like, here's what's wrong
exactly.
with it. Here's 5 pictures of it, not like one half picture of like this on Facebook Marketplace. And they're like, oh yeah, great condition. It's like, well, I can see 1/10 of that reel, so I doubt
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, they've done the hard work for you. They did it. They took
Right.
that part out and said, "We'll do all the BS. You get what you get. You're welcome." So I totally agree. So that's a really good call. Um, let's get to let's get right to the nitty gritty. Okay. Um, favorite reel at some of those different price points that we talked about. So we talked about
Mm.
first of all I'll say the $100 right around give or take 10, $15 at the $100 mark. what is your favorite? And you can only pick one. So we're gonna make you make a selection. It's gonna not be simple, not be fun. It's gonna be challenging the first couple. $100. What's your favorite? What is your favorite
Not
reel?
20 questions and scenarios,
No, not like,
Dizzle.
well, if it was this. No, no, no. Just
What
gotta
if
pick one.
what kind
Period.
of lake am I
Yep.
fishing on with the barometric pressure being less than 32?
Depends on how many drinks I've had.
No.
That's my favorite. I'm not sure. All right. I'll
LFS for
go.
me.
I
Lose
will.
LFS. I'll go.
Okay.
Lose
And why
LFS,
is there a
$99
reason
horse.
over the SLX? Being that that's
Magnetic
probably the
brakes,
two.
man. I
Yeah.
think that it's easier to tune in with just the regular SLX brakes. It's a great reel, don't get me wrong, but I think on a windy day or that little gust comes up, you can still backlash pretty easy with it.
100%. Done it many times. Cool. Randy, do you have an
I'm
opinion?
thinking, honestly, I don't have the reels like Debo does, but I
Sure.
think I'm going with the lose as
Oh,
well.
baloney! You've got.
I'm probably going with the lose also.
I get random texts from him. Oh, stopped at the bait shop again. Got the brand new. You've got the brand new 13 rod that I don't even have, that I haven't even seen.
Oh,
Oh,
the
got this.
no.
Oh,
what
doing
is
this.
it?
Where's the
The
video? Where's the video?
meta.
Unbox it. I like it.
Got
I will.
picked up a couple new dials. You know this one? Oh, this is pretty cool. It's got a cover on it. But yeah, my
Brutal.
buddy doesn't have a bunch of them.
I
Jeez.
will say SLX just for the folks, because I feel like those are the two that would be in contention, and I think they're both great. I don't think you can go wrong. I do think it's preference, but that's a great call out on the external adjustment. I think that's totally fair.
It used to be this one, but I don't know what the hell Dia was doing at the $99 price point. Like Fuego used to be there. I think it's
Fuego.
like 100. I think it's like $130 now.
And I
Like,
don't know that they can get around some of
let me
that though.
look.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I,
A lot of them did go up, but
Yeah,
still, like,
but like the SLX, they sell enough of them. I don't think it's a problem. And I would argue the LFS, you probably fixed it with their new $300 Super Spool ultralight slim deal.
well,
Like,
it's probably like the first shot of this drug is free on me to get you hooked. There's probably zero profit margin on them for them.
oh, none. Yeah.
But it's once you get that SLX in your hand, you're like, oh man, I'd really like to try
MGL,
Corrado. Yeah, and then
Corrado, DC.
they've got you hooked, right? So it's
Yeah. Totally
So
fair.
look at prices. Yeah,
So
oh sure,
just kind of
that's what they're trying
side
to do.
related point to this topic. Does it sound bad of me to say that I would wait and push back my purchase a little bit longer till I have a little bit more money to kind of stay away from that $100 reel
To do
point?
what? What would you get? Because to me, it's like the XT, like right after that.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily what I would probably
Yeah,
save up
fancy
like
Nancy. I don't have all the reels like Debo, but this is the guy that's saying, "Oh, I wouldn't touch $100 reel now.
I'm not saying it's just that the
No, it's a good
$100
question
reel
though.
for
It's a
me,
good question.
the way that I fish, because I'm totally different, probably the 99% of the people out there, I don't really use my thumb a whole lot when I fish. Baitcasters, I chuck it and let Jesus take the wheel, and what happens happens the majority of the time. Hopefully, I got my brakes set correctly.
So let me ask you
But
this.
This
yeah,
is true.
Okay, go
He
ahead.
definitely does.
Well,
no, I'm just saying.
what would you get? Like, so what would you hold out for, I guess is my question. Because like we're talking, because my next price range, right, based on what we were talking about earlier, the next price range would be like the 175, 180, somewhere in there. So is that what you're talking, like save another $50, or are you saying 10, 15? Because like really, I don't think once you get even at 125, I'd still probably take the lose LFS or the SLX at that point, probably.
I'm
Honestly, I don't really know that there's much more that's slightly more expensive that's worth it, except for maybe the XT, and that's arguable.
I'm
It's
probably
definitely worth
saving
it
up.
over the.
I'm probably saving up to the $200 range to get a Corrado.
So that's double, man. Like,
Yeah, no,
I mean, that's a lot
I
of
w-
pop bottles. That's a lot
oh yeah,
dude, that's money.
I
Just
would.
making it rain,
You
baby.
just went right above,
Just making it
all
rain.
but like 3 of my reels. I'll just put it that way. Not that
Yeah,
I'm the judge or anything. Like I've specifically stayed on there, but like that's more expensive than almost everything I own.
I personally, for me, I would rather deal with a rod that I have to deal with some hiccups with.
Sure.
Maybe I don't like the way that the grips are, or the bearings are going bad, or something about it isn't ideal. I would rather deal with that for an extra half a season, maybe even a full season
Whole year.
to save
For
up that
most
extra
people, it'd be a
money.
whole other. I mean, in my opinion,
Oh yeah, 100%.
damn.
The majority of the time, I wasn't getting a new combo every single spring.
But now
I
you're getting
was
one every week. You know, yeah.
yeah, twice a week actually. Twice a
It's
week.
just Wednesdays.
Yes.
I okay. So then let me ask you this. So you're just the sub 200. Let's do that. Like anything like sub 200, right?
Mm.
What do you guys think is like and this is probably the hardest question. I recognize that. Like we're all gonna be wrong. There's no right answer. But what do you think is probably one of your favorites at the sub 200 price point?
Is 199.99 sub 200?
Yeah, 100%.
I like the SLXDC. I made
Okay.
fun of Debo when he first
Wow.
got his just because it sounded like a transformer and
It
EDM
does.
married
Yeah.
He
each
ripped on
other.
he
But
ripped on me so much when I first got that reel,
You
and now it's
need
his
that
favorite.
much help casting, you
Oh, it
know.
sounds like there's a
you
transformer
know what the
puking over
the
there.
funniest part of it was? So Debo
What?
got the right-handed retrieve, and he's like,
Okay.
try this reel, try it's blah blah blah. It's the DC whatever." And he had a chatterbait tied on. He'd
Yeah.
been fishing it, for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Second cast, I catch a fish on it. And he's like, I haven't even caught a fish on that thing yet.
That actually happened to Jeff. He like handed it over and I caught a fish on it like immediately. That's funny, man.
Oh, sorry, Debo. Love you, buddy.
Okay, good
Oh,
answer. Like paying up for the DC. I like it. And that's over like a Corrado or an MGL.
Yeah, they're kind of right there in the same kind of ballpark, aren't they, as far as price range is
They're all
concerned?
about 200,
Yeah.
190, 200, somewhere in there.
Um, I have enough Corrados right now, so so it sounded
All
terrible.
right.
Uh,
Devo, what are your thoughts at like the sub 200? Because you got like the Revo that's down there. You got the Max XTS, I guess. You got the Zada, that's all the Abu stuff. You got the ones I just mentioned from Shimano. You've got the Lose. There's the tournament MP, right? There's quite a few that are just sniffing the 200 mark. What are your thoughts? BB1 is 199.
yeah, so man, there's so many good. I mean, like, there's so much. If your
Tons.
budget's $200 for a reel, like, you've got Corrado, which is a timeless. Like, the Corrado name has been around for so long because it's good. Like,
Yep.
one of the smoothest reels. It's awesome at that price point. The Tatula 150,
Thank
which
you.
used to
The
be,
die was
is how much? Let me see. It
one
used to
s-
be
160 for the TWS.
for which one is it? The 150
The
size?
150. Yeah. Pretty sure.
Yeah, that's a great deal. I was just
That's
looking now
my
real quick.
favorite. My personal favorite. That's my personal favorite. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
just such a
even 170 maybe.
179. Yeah, I just looked 179.
There you
But
go.
I mean, it's again aluminum handle side plate. It's 150, so you can throw pretty much anything on it. Awesome frogging reel.
Hell
And
yeah.
like I said, you're getting up into, yeah, I don't know about the new ones, but it used to be like $300 for a lose, before you found an aluminum handle
Sure.
side plate. So
Eight, and they come in you
yeah,
get
there's a
good
ton.
options on speed of retrieve.
Yeah, it just kind of comes down to fit, finish, feel. I will say a sleeper is the SLX MGL. Awesome reel. I think it's like
Uh,
140, I want to say. I mean, I'm off on prices.
well,
Check.
they all went up this year about 10%. Like 10, $15. Almost everything that's
Yeah,
above
150 now.
150 went up about 10, $15. Yeah. Yeah, the
The
MGL
SLX
XT, I
MGL.
think even XT, I think is 130 now. It was 115. It used to be. I think
Hmm.
it's 130 now. Still, I think is a great deal. Um, I really want to try though. The Arc Gravity. They have the 5 and the 7.
Hmm.
I'll be
I
honest with
did
you
get one
right
of
now,
those.
dude. Every single thing I've messed with from Arc, be it baits. I have not fished with any of the rods, but I've held them and I've messed around with them. And dude, the quality that comes out of that brand is like very, very good. And like, yeah, I get nervous going to a Baitcaster and they only have 3 models. So I'm like, I don't know, it could be absolute dart. But like everything I've grabbed that has the Arc brand on it, top quality. Like their baits have some of the best finish of like any bait out there. Like the
Yeah,
best.
I've had like the highs and highs and the lows of lows with them, so it's
Uh,
kind of funny. Like,
which ones?
for
What's on the lows?
So the arc sniper rod used to be like one of my top favorite rods. Loved it.
Oh,
Loved the heck out of it. Then they discontinued it, and I got the new like Lancer Pros back when
yeah.
all these like they were coming out, and it was a tip issue. I told the story a long time ago, but the tips on them were if you look at a rod tip, so there's the round part here, and there's the piece that hangs them back. They had wrong tips on them. They were put together wrong. So if you had like a fish on or anything over like a tiny bit of rod bend, the line was rubbing on that tip and like
Oh,
cut little tiny curls off. Like you'd be like shredding cheese, like
oh
little
my
tiny things
God.
of it. And
Like
it was spraying on
feathering
my
a piece of
line.
wood.
Yeah, like yes. And then I was getting line breaking all the time. Well, I flipped it over and looked because I thought I'd maybe broke the ceramic insert,
Yeah.
but it was that metal piece on the back. So I called them, went back and forth, I don't know how many times, and they basically said, "We're not going to replace the rods. Like we knew about the issue, but we'll send you 3 tips that you can
No.
replace." Yeah,
Oh
and I'm like,
no.
"Yeah, it was the worst." Like, but they did
And
offer to send me a free shirt with it too, and I'm like, "No, I don't want a free shirt. Like, what the
You're
hell are you
out of your
talking about?"
mind.
and then
You're out of your
Yeah,
mind.
so
so
it
That's
Devo,
like
was
when you
that's
got
like your
those
that's like your Fluger story.
yeah, very close. Yes, very
Oh man.
close.
when you
Brutal.
when you got those tips, what happened after that?
So then I tried the lighter thing to like melt it and take it off, and I burnt the tip. The tip was on fire, and it like
Just
so I just yeah, I sawed it like 2 inches below it and put it on, and it worked. It was fine.
oh, there.
But I
All
had
you
to
have
get
to
the
do is
Fuji tips. I did have to get the Fuji tips with the adjustable tips
yes.
because the tips they sent me were like the little tiny micro
Oh
tips,
my
and I'd cut
God,
down
dude.
like 2 or 3 inches off, and it wasn't fitted. So I had to get like the little pack of Fuji ones. And it was fine after that. But I think I still have that. Let me look.
I want to say he
Good.
video of it, and he's
Dude,
like
that's hilarious.
trying to light it with the lighter, and it just starts, it combusts on fire. And I want to say he's like, "Uh-oh," or something along those lines.
Oh
Just
God. Well, I've seen that. I'll never forget. I've watched Jeff snap a rod like on video, and I probably rewatched that 1,000 times. It just exploded in his hands. Speaking of which, Jeff's dad is in chat. He says,
mm.
Paul Chas, Jeff and I are watching, wondering what is going on. And then aggressively average anglers, Jeff goes, oh no, my dad is in chat. So
That's funny.
Jeff's dad gave him a backhand for me and make it stiff. Just go ahead and lay it on him for me. We appreciate it. Debo's looks like he's made. Debo, did you find it?
Here's what happens when you do shoddy rod tip repair.
Oh,
This
oh, that
tip is
is
like
tiny.
this long.
Oh my God,
Yeah, and it was all three of them. All three that I bought had bad tips,
that's
and they
brutal.
didn't replace them. Yeah, so I did like this was one that I successfully did it on, but yeah,
Wow. All right. Well,
one.
there you go. Never buy an arc rod. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna
No,
try
don't.
that.
I'm not going to say that.
I want to try that. I really want to try that Gravity 5. I think at
In fact,
$178, that's got me. That's got my interest peaked.
the arc catalyzer, I said I would never buy another arc rod again after that. I bought the catalyzer as like a $35 budget rod.
Yeah.
Top 2 or 3 favorite budget rod. So with the
There you go.
Iridex
There you go.
catalyzer,
I will. I
I'm gonna
challenge you
sell
though. I do challenge you. Grab
it.
grab an arc lure sometime, and then grab any other bait, and just hold them next to each other. You can't tell me the fit and finish on that rod, like the blower, the 119 or 17 or whatever it is. I think it's got one of the best paint jobs of a top water bait that I've seen in a very long time. Like coming out of the factory, just super nice. And then the hooks are always premium. So I don't know, just my opinion. Nicholas Hubert coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says the SLX and upgraded bearings, speed spool, and handle Go Mexus worth it. I will tell you, I will probably be able to answer that very specific question in like the next couple of weeks. So this kit right here is the full tune kit for the SLX. I'm going to put it on the A after I fish it for a couple of weeks, and we may or may not have some Go Maxis parts on the way. And I will tell you what I think. I have my own opinion, but I'm going to reserve it until I actually get it on there and mess around with it. So we'll see. But yeah, this full tune kit, I'm really excited to see how it goes. I've not been able to use like the higher end one before, so I'm interested. They make some bold claims about how good it is, and I'm interested to see if it's as good as advertised. So I don't know. Debo, have you used the full tune, like the nicer one, the nicer version of theirs?
The nice. What do you mean? The full?
You know, they have like different levels of quality as far as like the speed spool kits. And they have like the entry level, like $35 one, and then as you go up, they have either more or higher quality bearings. Have you
I've
tried the higher end ones?
I have, yes, very good. I love Spool Speed. I love Scott over there. I'm not sponsored by anything. They don't
Yeah.
pay me or anything like that. But Scott, I met at the Bassmaster Classic. That's been like 2016, I think, one of the
Yeah.
first and only time I went. And he was one of the few that like took time to talk to me, and super awesome experience. So we've stayed in touch ever since then. But um, yes, they make a difference. They don't pick them up thinking like that's actually what I have in here, thinking that you're going to get like 50 extra casting yards. But the biggest thing I notice is ease of casting. I think that's the biggest benefit over anything is like if you have to really whip it hard to get that distance or like your flipping and pitching is like kind of shoddy, like adding those bearings, the smoothness that adds, like you can just barely let it go. And like that startup inertia is nothing. And it
Yeah.
helps with wire lures as well. But as far as distance, you will get a little bit of distance, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I casted 50 yards extra. So
Distance, I almost don't care about. I'm not saying I don't care, but for me, ease of casting is the biggest thing because I will find myself just being the fisherman that I am. I'm operating in the bottom half of that rod action like weight range probably
mm,
50% of the time. That's just who I am and how I fish, and I find myself there way more often than not. So when I find a heavy stick that can throw like a 3/16 ounce, like I did with that tournament concept, that Okuma, it's a pleasure. It's just amazing. It loads like it doesn't even seem possible. And then when you throw the Hakai on there, you can cast anything on that combo. Like it's unbelievable. And then messing around with a free rig, like I'm finesse fishing a free rig with a big hook, finesse fishing it like 3/16 ounce, like easily flipping that around. So much fun. And a combo like no other combo you could do that with. So I would agree that for me, I personally, that's what I look for when we talk about like smoothness. It's that like, can it handle? That's why I like the Hakai because I feel like the light spool with the way that it's constructed and the lightness of it, I can handle this huge range of weight that like most other reels I just can't. So I don't know, I'm a fan. Um, all right, 200 or we'll go straight to the high end, 300 plus. Favorite
Zillion,
reel.
die
I
with
have
Zillion, hands down.
die was only done. Easy. Deep Dizzle,
I've
what do you
never
got?
I so to contradict myself from what I said earlier, I don't have any of that range. I've used Debo Zillion before, but
Okay. What'd
I
you
don't think
think?
I do. Oh,
Didn't you
it's
pick up an
nice.
elite? Elite's over 200 now, isn't it? Or 300? Or no?
No.
No, no. Oh,
I just got the
I don't remember how much that was.
Tula pitch and
250.
flip. That
Mm,
was like 250, 260, something like that.
dang. That's a
Um,
lot for a pretty I don't know. Do you use it only for pitching and flipping? You're planning on it?
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
It's
god. I don't
on.
do nearly enough of that to justify that purchase.
I
I
put it.
cannot
I
do it.
put it on my meta rod, and I use that for jig fishing only. So,
Sounds
This
pretty
I
guy.
will
awesome.
say that the obviously it's a pitch and flip reel. The
Yeah.
spool is small. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you,
Shallow.
I want to
I
try that. I want to try that Omnia pitch and flip. I've always been so curious about messing with the button version and like the fat shallow spool. I wanted to mess with that thing since I've heard about it. I don't want to buy one. I really have zero desire to buy one, but I want to play with
yeah, I've bird's nest down all the way to the bare spool
it. It probably
twice,
doesn't take much.
twice now, and I just got it this year. So,
I
yeesh.
love it. All right. I have no opinion whatsoever because I am unjustified. I have not used anything in that price range. I don't know that I ever will. And with that, we'll go to the oh, go ahead. Jaws. I'm
I
not
saw
gonna read
that.
it the way that he said it. Tell Devo I blank T an ugly stick GX2 in a garage door, and it survived, and it did actually. He shut it. He shut it in a garage. He like it was laying inside the track. Shut the garage door on it, and it's so soft that it survived.
Dude, that's the ugly stage. You saw the video of that dude a long time ago that was holding up what was like a chainsaw or something?
That's right.
Like
Yeah,
talk about one of the best marketing like
I know.
pictures and videos. I'm sure he sold a crap ton from that video.
Oh yeah, what was the commercial they made? It was like soft, so you don't have to be, or something like that.
Don't know.
I forget what it was, but it was like two guys and they were just being told jerks to each other in the boat, and it was like soft, so you don't have to be or whatever. It was hilarious. It's still making its way around the internet, that commercial. The ugly stick though, the crazy thing about the rod he's talking about, it wasn't. It was an ultralight. It was their ultralight. I think it was
Oh
a five,
wow.
6 ultralights or 6 foot maybe. So we're talking about a toothpick that he ran over with a garage door and it's still alive. So that's pretty. I'm doubly impressed. I'm not gonna lie. All right. Slow rolling thunder. We're gonna blast through this like we said we were gonna do a half hour ago. All right, here we go. What would you? And this is realistically like ultimate realism. We can't play like we're badasses or anything. What would you do realistically if you took a fishing hook to the hand and you were by yourself?
Pull it out.
I've
How?
done it.
How?
Pliers are the
How?
braid trick. I've done
Okay,
both.
that's so. How do you do it by yourself with the pliers and like? Are you using your teeth? Like, what are you? How do you get pressure on the other side?
Well, depends on where it's at. So the one that I did with the braid was here. So hold it
Oh,
here and then
I see.
with
Okay.
pliers though, like the thing with pulling a hook out is it has to be slack and it has to be fast. Like
Slack?
whether you, yeah. So like a lot of people will take. Should I do it? Should I just put a hook in my hand and
Yeah,
Do
and
it.
do it
Do
on?
it.
go grab a 5-aught and
Would it be demonetized if I did? I'll do it.
I don't
I'll
care.
put a treble hook.
First of all, I don't want you to do it. Second of all, I don't really care about monetization. So hold on though. So
So
let's demo without jabbing yourself. How about that? I'm interested. I mean, I probably, as the host of the show, I feel like an idiot. I mean, he offered to stab himself. I feel like for the views, we should have made him do it. But I don't want
I
to.
know
I
I've
don't want.
got.
You know what's going to happen? He's going to do it, and his family's going to be asleep, and he's going to have to drive to the hospital to get it out.
No,
No.
I've had a bunch. Speaking of,
Oh, geez.
the old arc. I picked
Oh
up
my
one of the
goodness.
reels.
I'm glad. Which one did you
Um,
get? Is that the 7?
the 5. I got the
Can
mid
you
one.
tell me what your thoughts are at some point? Because I'm my interest was very much piqued, especially just looking at the construction. I saw a lot of things that, had my interest piqued.
Smooth, like right off, I'll say smooth. I was really smooth and quiet, but I've heard from a couple people it's a bear to get dialed in. And I went out fishing with
Oh.
my buddy Chris.
Yes.
He lives here in Iowa. He's actually a better fishing buddy than Randy because he brought me donut holes. So I'm probably just going to replace Randy because he also likes Nebraska too.
Oh
Randy fumes when I talk
Lord.
about cheating on him with other fishing friends. Um,
This is hard to watch. Even with the external adjustment,
Well,
it's hard. It's a bear to get dialed.
yeah, he was having all kinds of backlash issues, and I've heard from other people too. So I'll
Oh,
be
I don't like
interested
this.
to
I don't
see.
like the sound of that at all.
So what I'm talking about is like everybody when they get a hook in the hand or like finger anywhere, they always take it and it's like a slow, dull, like
Oh yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
gotta.
try to get. Oh, it hurts. Yeah. So it's like any sort of slack you can get it into any sort of pop. It's the
Yes.
same thing with the braid trick, like slack line, and you're swinging through it. So it's not like I'm
Like
gonna
the
pop it
door
off.
with the
It's
tooth. You can't pull
yes,
the
it's
tooth out
boom.
slowly. You gotta throw the football with a slack
Yes,
line, and then it's going.
yes.
Yeah, I
Or with the
100%.
pliers. It's boom, like
Okay.
everything you got, and
All
it's out.
right. What are we looking
There we
at?
go.
Is this? Oh lordy, my lord. Oh, it went through though. So did you cut it?
okay, so here's the deal.
You did
That was
not pull it out the other side.
listen. I was out fishing. I was out fishing on the bank of a river, and I catch a smallmouth, and it
Okay.
was a very smallmouth bass. It was very,
All right.
very tiny.
I'm tracking. I'm tracking.
I go to take it out, and then the next thing I know, I'm
It
like,
does smallmouth
there's
things.
there's pain in my hand. I have a lot of
Okay.
pain in my hand, and
All
it
right.
didn't go all the way through.
Okay.
And so there's a smallmouth on the back treble hook, and the front treble hook's still in my hand. And I'm
Ooh.
standing on rocks balancing, a fishing rod and a backpack on, and there's water. And I'm like, well, I got pliers. I'm just gonna try to yank it out. I try to yank it out like that. Swear, promise on everything. Like it kind of just goes black for just a quick second. The fish is gone. My rod and
Oh.
reel is in the water, and now the hook is all the way through my hand. So then I was just able to cut it off and back it
Yeah.
out. So
Okay. Wow. So you unwittingly went with option number 3, which is push it all the way through, then cut it and go back out the other way.
Yeah.
Wow, what a story. You blacked out and did it right.
Apparently,
Damn.
yes.
I'll be honest, I heard a story on Meat Eater where a guy had both of his thumbs in treble hooks and he had to walk like 6 miles and he was like hailing someone down like he was handcuffed because he had both of his thumbs in a treble. And I was like, bro, I probably, and I mean, I like to think that I'm, a tough guy or whatever. I probably, if it was like deep in the meat of my hand, I'd probably just be like, you know what? I can't go home. I'd love to say I would prefer to go home. Like if my dad was at my house, I would go home because we would do the string trick. Like that's the one that I have the most faith in, and the one that I know that he could handle, but my wife couldn't do that.
The
Not a
only
dig at
one
my
I've
wife, but she couldn't do it.
did it works so easy. Even the pliers, like the only one I've ever seen like where I couldn't hack it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying I'm super tough or anything, but like
Uh-huh.
most people are just it's that hump to get over. Like
Yeah,
I can't do it. I can't. Once you do it, it's like, oh, I didn't even
I
feel that,
did it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like the one where I've seen one where the hook went through dude's thumb, up through the thumb, and up through the nail. Like unless you had something to actually cut the barb off, like that's one of the only times I'd be like, I gotta get like I don't have anything to
My
cut this
God,
barb
the
off.
nerves, there's some blood vessels in the tips of your fingers. So I have a cut right here. You can barely see it now, but I've been super
And they
gluing
just
for
go. It just keeps going,
I've been yeah, it
pumping.
took 15 minutes of, like, I'm not
Yeah.
exaggerating, like, shaking till I could get it to stop bleeding enough to super glue it, and that was the only way I could get it, to work, and this is day, like, 3 or 4 of super glue, but, yeah, you hit the wrong blood vessel in the tip of one of your fingers, and that thing will it's hor I mean, like, it's going. Not
The
fun.
crazier thing though is at the same time, there's also not blood vessels in some parts of your thumb. I stuck a
Yeah.
treble into my thumb
Yeah.
and Debo did the braid pull it
Uh-huh.
out thing. There's actually probably can't see it, but there's a beer stein up there.
Yeah.
I actually have the treble from
Oh,
the
nice.
the crankbait still tied onto the line up there in that thing.
That's
But
cool.
it's insane the amount of pressure that just hits you, like, the relief of the pressure,
Oh,
because
yeah.
my hand was just like, I couldn't do anything other than just this, and Debo's like, "Count of 3, here we go, 1, pop,"
One bang.
and just yanks it out, and I was
Yeah.
like,
I'd be too ready. You'd have to go to
"Oh."
4. 1. Oh, wait, 2, 3. Hey, come on, 4. Ah! Like,
Yeah.
that's good. Chaz is made of glass. You know the Mr. Glass? He is the real deal, Mr. Glass. He just walks around. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's great, but you gotta deal with it every week. Like, he looks at a pile of laundry sideways, broken shoulder. Like, it's constant. Alright, so we got a lot of folks on. Let's do the giveaway. I think we'll let everyone chat for a minute. So everybody start chatting. If you're new to the show, start chat. We'll give you a minute here. We'll do another question. Here we go. What gives you the worst road rage? Like what while driving makes you like see black, like you're gonna drop your reel and poke a treble through the other side of your thumb? Is it like being tailgated? Is it the slow lane left, slow driver in the left lane that just like you can't get around? Is it like somebody cutting you off constantly? Because like sometimes you get cut off by the same person like 5 times on the same street. Or are you just like a cool as a cucumber behind the wheel and you never have an issue?
I have a it's kind of a cheat, but it's the exact same thing. It's, well, it's 2 in 1, I should say. It
Okay.
is tailgating
Yeah.
to getting over I get over to the other lane or whatever, they pass me, and then they slow way down. So
Slow
then I
down.
have to
Oh,
friggin' pass them again, and I'm like,
yeah.
"What are you doing?" At the first
This is coming from the guy that literally is scared to death of cruise control. Anytime I go places with
No,
him and I
you're this
follow him,
guy, you're the guy.
I hit I hit he always has to tough guy me when he passes me to show me how much tougher his truck is than mine.
uh,
And then the whole time
see
going there, it's just I'm
see,
like,
the
you
thing
never,
I don't
literally never use cruise control. Do you? He's like,
I
no,
don't
I hate it.
I don't wanna use cruise control, especially because it's always, like, super early in the morning, and
That
it's
makes
just
no
like,
sense.
"Oh,
I got
here's a
nothing. I
here's
can't
a
back you.
30-minute drive
Can't
with
be
the heat
backed.
on."
You can't be backed. There's no there's no salvation.
I
I
don't
put my
fall
cruise
asleep
control on and
nearly
take a
as much
nap
as
there to the fishing spot as I
yeah.
drive. It's awesome.
This
I
guy
live on
falls
cruise
asleep
control.
so much.
All right, well, guys asleep at the wheel would be high on my list of people that, I
That's
feel
me.
like Do you have any trigger? We got people saying Spotify ads. Texting and driving is one that ticks me off. I want like to get those people attention and be like, put your phone down. But that's just me. I don't like that at all.
I don't have like a specific one, but it's like anybody driving unsafe, like where I see like, dude, do you understand? Like there's kids in my truck right now.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have like a
That's what gets
specific one,
me.
but
Yeah.
yeah, just anybody like whether it's swerving and then you get up to them, yeah, they're on their phone doing this, or like there was a guy the other day that was like, those people that literally can't wait 2 seconds that they're cutting in and out of every
Yes.
single one, like
Fast and the Furious.
literally almost clipped like two people, and I was like, that just made me irate.
When I see
Tailgater's not
people,
usually so much, like whatever, you're an idiot, but
I do get a little bit ragey in the Dizzle situation. That does get me. That gets the juices flowing, but it's usually not that bad. I'll just slow way down and let them go, or I'll speed past them, and it's not a problem for me. It's the when I see people driving unsafe, that does really get me. But I get it almost the worst when they do that on truckers. Like when I see a guy who's like working, like the dude's at work. He's 7 hours into a 12-hour shift, essentially, right? And they got to deal with your BS because you're doing one of these in front of them or behind them. And like people will almost hit truckers like all the time. I drive a main highway corridor, I-94. Like it's 20% of the traffic minimum is truckers. And you'll see it all the time. And dude, when they have to hit the brakes just because you are not paying attention, I don't know why that makes me mad. It like doesn't affect me. I get pissed. I'm like, that guy's at work right now. He's trying to stay awake. He's white knuckle right now. They can't use their phones for the most part. Like if they're in a new rig, they got cameras for that and they look for that stuff. Like you get fired for that. I'm like, that guy's probably most of the time they're coming from Canada, like where we are. Like that guy does not want to deal with your BS, should not have to deal with your BS. I don't know why that makes me so mad, but it really does when people do that around semis. Also, any mistake you make, you're probably dead.
yes,
You're probably done. Like if you
sad
get
but
run
true.
over by the rear wheel of a semi, adios, Paul Walker. See you in another life. Like it's over. So I don't. That sets me off. I get really upset about that. Okay, Chas, let's do the giveaway. Who do we got? The winner this is the $25 gift card to Monster Bass. Nathan Johnson?
Sounds like a bot name.
No, he's here all the time. He just commented. Rip Lip Stick Families. I don't know what that
Rip
means.
Torn.
The stick families.
Oh,
Where you
that's
have
so
the
good. I don't mind. That's good. Now I'm
mom, the
tracking
dad,
now.
the
That's
16
good.
cats, a dog,
Yeah,
one kid.
I like it. Oh, come on, guys. It wasn't Scott Vermonter, everybody. Okay, so now you know it's not Rick. He already said let's go. Follow the instructions on the screen. I'm not even going to take the third question. We've held everyone long enough. Debo, Randizzle, where should people go and find your amazing content? Because you do make a lot of it.
On the interwebs. Look for Debo interwebs and you'll find me.
Perfect.
Yeah, look for Debo on the interwebs, and I show up some of the times.
No, it's perfect, guys. If you haven't already, any video that we've made, Debo's made it before and made it better. He's got the Instagram going. He's got the lure, the Debo's custom lure, so you can go find him there as well and buy some custom-made baits. Which I mean, I've got a
That's not a
couple, and
bad seat. I have nothing left, so
they are
nothing in the
coveted.
docket.
They are coveted, and I have to assume that some will come out at some point again.
They
So
might be
please go.
done. It might be
I love it.
done.
Come on. I love it. Please go look up
Comes to that.
Debo's Fishing. We have our next members only is going to be April 11th. We have Punch Fishing coming next week. We'll be talking probably like really high end, like Mega Bass, JDM, all the like we might even get more nerdy next week. We got no Jeff again. So thanks for that. We get to get we triple down on our nerdiness. There may even be like no beards next week. First time ever of like ever no beards on the show. So buckle up. It's going to get weird. Again, thank you all for joining us. Please go like, subscribe, all that stuff. Check everybody out everywhere. Have a great night. Chas, would you please do us a gigantic favor and take us out?
Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end, it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I deserve to say I'm sorry, so lie. Pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. And so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Life kept spitting at my feet and forced me down a dead end street when all I had